Hi, my name is Kurt Aspland, and this is my studio. This week I thought we might draw some bears. We're planning a camping trip to Pocono Mountains, and there are bears there. I hope we come across some friendly bears. I'm sure we will, but at least we'll draw them. In addition to that, I've added a great little drawing tip for you, so stick around for that. I'm not going to tell you when that's going to pop up, so that will be a nice surprise, but it should help in your drawing. So that's it for now. I hope you enjoy The Bear in the Woods and a Butterfly.
Okay, let's get started. We're going to start off with a horizontal line that's slightly vertical. And then we're going to come down on the left-hand side and give a nice curve. This bottom part's for the bottom part of our bear's body. Just kind of going back over my lines here.
Hey, if you're liking this video, make sure you subscribe right now below so I can keep making more. You got this.
Always important to draw lightly. Alright, moving on, we're going to start to work on his snout or nose. You know, these bears, they can smell miles away. They have such a big nose. So we're going to go across here with a straight line to establish the top of his nose. And then I'm going to also go with another straight line to show the front end of it. But underneath, I want a curve. I want a nice curve coming across. All right, let's put that nose into the far right. Giving us a slight smile on his muzzle there. Okay, gonna add an eyeball, a little eye. Kind of somewhat squinted. I like the idea of squinted, more of a line than a round shape. It kind of gives a sense that he's looking up into the sun or looking up into the light, so he's like closing his eyes slightly, and it gives a real pleasant feel to his character. Alright, so this is a guideline that I'm drawing in the front of his body there to help me figure out where I'm going to put the fur. And then I'm going to have a line also toward the bottom of that is somewhat curved. This is called a surface line. It gives me a sense that he has a nice round belly. Top part of his arm now starts off with a curve, goes into a straight, and then comes all the way around to work his paw right into that arm. All right, let's kind of try and establish where his feet might be. So where his feet come in contact with the ground, it's going to be somewhat flat. Working on his toes here. Toes and feet. Nice little curve between his two feet there, so it's almost like a little tunnel. And I actually, what I did is I tilted my whole drawing slightly one direction. If you're drawing on a piece of paper, you could just tilt your paper if you needed to, if you weren't drawing him straight up and down. But because I'm on the computer, I can't tilt my computer. So sometimes that happens in drawing. You might be drawing it one way and then realize you're drawing it on a slight slant. So it happens. All right, we get our next paw in, and he's kind of reaching up, and the butterfly is going to be wanting to land on the top of his paw. All right, let's work on his right ear. And I notice with bears' ears, and this is just looking at photographs, a lot of times they have one side of the ear will be somewhat straight, and then the other side will curve around. So it's those small little details we want to pick up, because it makes it look more bear-like. Now I'm drawing right on top of my drawing, giving a little roundness to the top of his head. And I'm going to draw the butterfly here, so a slight line to indicate the body, and then almost like a heart shape on the right side for one wing, and then making the other wing much more skinnier. It'll give a sense that we're looking in depth, like the butterfly is not flat. On the right side here, I'm going to start to draw like an embankment, where the land, maybe some water came through here and cut away the land just a little bit. And on the left hand side, we're going to add a couple stones. Kind of working on this little indication of where this tree would be in the back. Adding a few more stones.
A drawing tip from
A Dad Who Draws.
Okay, let's look at this quick little tip. I think you might like this. A lot of times when we're drawing, we will draw things so they're perfectly balanced, and we want to stay away from that. We want to create contrast. So when we're grouping objects, look at the bottom of your page here, and I like to go through the sense of getting different scale or different shape. So the first object I'll draw, sometimes in my mind I'll go, that's the dad. And then the smaller object, I'll say, okay, that's the mom. And then I draw, oh, this is the older brother. And I keep getting size differences in the grouping. So I think dad, mom, older brother, sister, and then little babies. So you get a really neat distinction in shape and size of objects when you group them together. Something to think about. All right, we're going to continue with our drawing here and adding grass and some detail here in our embankment. Going to add some little bit of texture in the background here for our tree, almost like these are branches that are extending out. And some surface lines on this tree to give a sense that it's round. Now I'm going to draw some background trees here to indicate the background. Make sure you draw these lightly, because a lot of times if we draw things that are light, they will appear to be further back in space of our drawing. And this is an interesting thing. You can actually go outside and look at something that's a long ways away and it will appear to be lighter in value. So we could use that same trick when we draw. Just adding some little floating things. It could be, it might be a windy day, so we're some little objects that are floating around here. Getting some small texture on the ground as well. All right, coming back in now with some darker lines. Darkening in his head, and look at this over here. I've changed the position of his ear slightly. So once again, this is why I like to draw light first, because you can make minor adjustments if you don't like something. Yeah, I didn't like the size of his ear there, so I made it a little bit smaller. Coming around the front of his muzzle and his mouth now. Getting in his nose and leaving just a little bit white at the top of his nose. This will create a slight reflection. Working into his smile now. Start to indicate some fur. Yep, coming around, bringing that right down into his feet. Adding some claws. Top part of his foot, bottom part of his foot. Space in between. Alright, it's coming right along, getting some nice detail here. Getting some fur on his right side here. Alright, working on his other hand now. Getting some fur on top, but also working through some surface lines and the longer fur that's hanging on the bottom, hanging off the bottom of his arm. Get some claws in onto his paw right there. Adding the pads of his feet. I'm going to add a couple, his tail. His bear's tail in the back, and adding some more detail to him. Alright, let's get this butterfly in. A wing on one side, a wing on the other. Let's work on these rocks. Look at that nice grouping. A big one in back, a middle one, and then a smaller one. Straight lines to establish the ground plane that he's on. Working on some grass. All right. Grass on top of our embankment here. And I'm adding a little dark tone underneath to give a sense of a shadow, maybe. I'm just going to delete our little dad tip, the little grouping there. Thought maybe add some other little flies that are flying around with a little wind or trail behind them. And that pretty much adding some little texture to our rocks. Now we're just putting in the final details to. I'm not going to do anything with the background because I want to keep that light. And the last thing I'm going to do is add just a little bit of tone so this black bear stands out from the background. And just really quickly, I'm not worried about if I stay within the lines. I kind of like going outside the lines. I think it gives a little bit of looseness. I do want to darken the bottom part of his body just a little bit. That will give a sense that there's shadow there.